time has come. The event TV show of the year is here. The Rings of Power is one of my most anticipated TV shows of the year. So, was it worth the wait? And is this first season even comparable to the iconic movie trilogy? You will find your answers in my review for Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. Before we begin, let me remind you to please hit the subscribe button. A lot of other early reviews including Pinocchio and Cobra Kai Season 5 are coming up. Also, I know many of you are excited for this one and have a lot of questions in mind, so you can ask as many questions you have regarding this show and I will answer them until they have spoilers in it. So no spoilers, now let's head on to the review. This show is so controversial even before its release. The fact that Amazon gave such a huge budget to this show and it turns out to be this controversial already is a red flag. They have already planned 5 seasons of this show. One of the major accusations against this show is that it is not really adapted from Tolkien's work. All the Tolkien fans out there are furious about why Amazon chose to make a prequel show that is not really adapted from Tolkien's work and is just slightly based on it. I understand them, but all I'll say is that even despite the fact that the plot wasn't from the works of Sir J.R.R. Tolkien, this season still had an interesting plot for the audience to stick to it. I mean, at least I was quite stuck with it. I enjoyed it throughout. Everyone is pointing out that this show has female orcs and black elves. All I will say is that it doesn't matter to me at all. This is one thing that I think is stupid to accuse the showmakers of. Orcs and elves didn't exist. They are fictional creatures. Why does it even matter what gender or race they are? It is just representing different people out there. Just like the current world, even the fictional world of Middle Earth who has different races and genders. And I think the showmakers do the right thing here by representing it. There is no politics behind it. I was blown away by the world building here. It knocked my socks off. I have never seen a fictional world this good. It is stunning, gorgeous, beautiful, and every wonderful word that ever exists. My eyeballs wanted to come right out of their sockets. It is that beautiful. It is just impossible to not like. The production values, cinematography, and visual effects all blend into making this world incredible. Out of all the fantasy worlds out there, I'm definitely saying that this is the best. This is one point where the series exceeds even the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit movie trilogies by a huge margin, especially the production values. If this continues, I could easily say that this beats Game of Thrones in terms of production values. Let's get to the mixed part. The characters here aren't that great. The showmakers definitely focus more on the world building and showing you what a stunning show this is, but in doing so, it does lose its momentum with the character development for at least half of its characters. Now there are so many characters here, it is hard to go through all of them, but I would like to say that the ones I really liked were Galadriel, Elrond, Arondir, and Miriel. The characters really depend on the actors portraying them and the writers who wrote them here. Characters like Durin and Isildur have really messed up in at least one of those two things. And I think that there are just way too many characters here. As for Sauron, if you think that there will be a heavy presence of him here, then be ready to be disappointed. I mean, I was certainly very excited to see Sauron, but I also expected very less screen time. So I was completely satisfied with the amount of Sauron here. Set thousands of years before the events of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, the series is based on author J.R.R. Tolkien's history of Middle-earth. It begins during a time of relative peace and covers all the major events of Middle-earth's Second Age, the forging of the Rings of Power, the rise of the Dark Lord Sauron, the fall of the Island Kingdom of Numenor, and the last alliance between elves and men. These events take place over thousands of years in Tolkien's original stories but are condensed for the series, and I think that it was good enough. I'm not saying that it has a nerve-wracking plot. No, it doesn't. It has mostly a simple but progressive plot, and I like that approach, and I appreciate that the show went with it. Whenever a big fantasy show comes out, people expect it to be the next Game of Thrones. So does Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power have potential to be the next Game of Thrones? I don't think so. I mean, Game of Thrones is completely a different kind of show. This doesn't feel like Game of Thrones at all. Even though both are fantasy shows, this focuses more on the world building and the fantasy elements of it, whereas Game of Thrones focused way too much on the politics aspects of the show, and that's what made it so special. I don't think that people would get so shocked and surprised by Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. People loved Game of Thrones because it surprised them, shocked them to the nerve. But Lord of the Rings lacks all that. It doesn't shock me, but I loved being in this world, and I think that's the reason why people are going to stick with it, to be in the Middle Earth among all these characters. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be the next Game of Thrones. I don't think it's going to win a lot of Emmys, especially not for the acting categories, because there's not a single actor that really deserves an Emmy here for their performance in this show. But it certainly has a chance in a lot of the technical categories, so like production values and all that, where it definitely beats Game of Thrones. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be the next Game of Thrones. The Rings of Power is a massive win for everyone involved. I hope the characters receive better development over the course of the later seasons, but the world building and cinematography is just so stunning, you won't even like to blink. I was absolutely thrilled watching this show. It can be called fantasy at its best. Yes, it is not as iconic as a movie trilogy, but I was certainly amazed by it. I am giving it an 8.7 out of 10. If you are going in as a hater, you will come out of it as a hater. But if you go in as a supportive fan, or if you are a general audience member, I think you will most likely love it. So yeah, that was my opinion on Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, one of the most anticipated shows for me. Share your opinion in the comment section down below. How much excited are you for this new Lord of the Rings show? Thank you for watching. Like, share and subscribe. Film Villa.